Microx 4. So the world always had been separated for PreSens into two things: microsensors and mini sensors. And now the things are a bit more complicated because the Microx 4 does the following: it reads out mini sensors and microsensors. So now you could say, come on, what's up? Why did you show us the Fibox 4? It's just for mini sensors, of course, with oxygen sensoring, and there is also the trace, and there is also the ultra trace. But why should one buy a Fibox 4 and not a Microx 4? So right at the start, before I just get to the nitty-gritty, the Microx 4, I would say, is the correct tool for all that kind of universities and institutes. While the Fibox 4 is for, I would say, industry, biotech and that kind of stuff. Why? The Microx 4 is a bit more steep in price. And the Microx 4 is, in the term of, I would say, sensoring, not as robust as the Fibox 4 is. So if your customer just tells you, I just need mini sensors for the rest of my life, sell a Fibox 4. If you've got an institute or university where they say, oh, I just want a mini sensor and I want a micro sensor afterwards, and my colleague does in the following, just sell a Microx 4. First, so price and use. Second, terms of robustness of the sensors, Microx 4 goes up to 4 millimeters in thickness of the wall of the vessel, while a Fibox 4 is going to 10 millimeters. So that is something very important. If they've got thick vessels, typically for industry, show glasses, pipelines, that kind of stuff, go for a Fibox 4. But typically, if you just go to university, you have to have in mind a Microx 4. So I really hope that my voice is not wasted like yesterday. We just keep on with the Microx 4 and Microx 4 Trace sales guide. So, where are we? Okay. So this is the agenda. We just go to a short description. Once again, through the unique selling propositions, you could imagine that if you've got a tool that is able to have microsensors, flow-through cells and dipping probes and mini sensors, this is absolutely new to the world. Then we've got some key buying facts, of course, nice application fields and examples. The sales approach, which is a bit weird, and I would skip it. Just leave it, I think, to Joseph. How to handle your customer base is completely up to you. Components of pricing, of course, very interesting manual. You just get that from us, from Germany. We don't get through the whole manual. Then we've got some marketing material, and what we do not today, unfortunately, because of the Chinese distributor just broke my meter. And fortunately, as it is completely acting and behaving like the Fibox 4, which you had yesterday, it's not necessary. So you have to be very cool with that. It's exactly the same. It's even looking the same. It has the same color, same behavior. The only difference is just an ST connector instead of an SMA connector for the Fibox 4. So an SMA connector for the Fiboxes is always screwing the light guide in, and an ST connector is like a bayonet. You just have to click it. Okay, description, very familiar. You should have a strong déjà vu to yesterday. It's nearly exactly the same. You've got the color display. You've got the PT100 connector, which is the temperature probe. You've got the barcode scanner. Everything like yesterday, except of the ST connector, which is different. So even if you go to the customer, you have to look at the backside of the meter to be sure if it's a Fibox 4 or it's a Microx 4. When we just return to Germany, we will send you also a Microx 4 for the universities and for all of the institutes, including some microsensors and some mini sensors. I think a good thing is to have some spots. to have a light guide, and especially to have a dipping probe. Okay. So unfortunately this is a PDF format, so there is no scrolling thing in there, unfortunately, so we've got the complete information right now. So as I already told you, it's one device for non-invasive oxygen sensors, for probes and for microsensors.
Basically it's for all sensors.
Yes, but you have to keep in mind this is a complete new technology, and you even don't see the pink color that you are used to of the sensor spots, the pink color of the sensor spots.
Yeah.
If you look down there at the right bottom, you will see something in green, which means the technology is somehow different. The technology basically is giving some red light now to the spots and to receive some infrared light back as a fluorescence. So the rule is still valid, just have a short wavelength and getting back a longer wavelength afterwards. But this is something completely new. You don't even have the chance to use the PSD3, PSD6, PSD9 dies that were coming with the Fiboxes, Fibox 3, Fibox 4. This is something completely new. If you order Microx 4, you have, of course that is our job to control everything, but you also have to take those new dies, which are typically called PSD7 and PSD8. Okay, don't be scared. We care about that. If there is an order, we say, Joseph, are you completely sure that you really want to have some PSD3 with the Microx 4? Not a good idea. We take care about that. Basically, the resolution and the accuracy is nearly the same. What you cannot do is using all the other stuff. So it's written down there, the Microx 4 is not compatible with previous oxygen sensors, so no PSD3, 6, 9, which means mini sensors, no PSD1, TOS 7, which means microsensors. It's something new. So what you know is that we use the PSD3 for the normal range and the PSD6 for the trace range, and now PSD9 for the ultra trace range. We can compare it to the Microx 4. Now we use PSD7 for the standard range, and we use PSD8 for the trace range. No ultra trace, just trace. Another thing that is completely new to you is an extension. And here it reads Microx 4 works with sensor types PSD702 and PSD710. What does that mean? Well, it just gives you the size of the light guide. So 10 means it's a light guide with a millimeter, and 2 means that is a light guide with 200 microns. That's everything. So the extension gives you the difference in between the two worlds, micro and mini. Of course, we completely take care about any orders, so just go for it. The next thing we just had, it's also coming with an LCD, coming with logging function. It's a standalone thing, it's splash proof. It also has exactly the same batteries like the Fibox we saw yesterday. It also has the barcode thing, where you just can read in the barcode. Of course, also with the PSD7 and PSD8 sensors, of course, with every single pack now there is a barcode. Okay. Now we go to the unique selling propositions. Well, that's for sure. There is no competitor who does a standalone meter that is working with macro sensors and with mini sensors. Never ever. Just invention by PreSens. Okay, this is a bit of repeating of yesterday. Of course, we have those mini sensors, the micro sensor thing. We also have the sensor management. You just played along with it yesterday. You can tell him this is the barcode, this is that kind of sensor, this is the barcode, this is a different sensor. So sensor management. which were not valid for the old fireboxes. So that was a bit of a problem. Lots of customers just told us, oh, I just got to the new sensor, I have to enter all the data. So that is new for Firebox 4 and Microx 4. We've got the energy management thing. So whenever the customer just enters, I just want to have long-term measurements, it stands very long. So this is written down there. It's a bit different from the Firebox 4. It's more than 4 weeks. If you just choose to have a sampling rate, bing, of 10 minutes, bing, so
Yeah.
just the interval.
Actually, sorry, after talking to the product manager,
It's even longer.
actually it's longer, so it's exactly like the Firebox 4.
Typical,
So it's
typical German.
30 minutes, it's 4 months.
So typical German thing. We just undergo the limits to be very sure. Once again, we've got the PreSens measurement studio, which has to be paid. Unfortunately, according to my opinion. But if you want to get the perfect control and you really want to steer and control the meter, you have to buy the PreSens measurement studio, which is not coming with the instrument for free. What is coming for free, like with the Firebox 4, you've got only the very simple logging software. So you just connect it via USB and get all the data down. Typically, everything is coming in comma separated values, CSV, which can easily be imported by Excel, for instance. Okay? That is again the same and the same and the same, like for the Firebox 4. I think we just should quit that one. You've got a 1 and the 2-point calibration. You've got the thing with the dry and humid gases. By the way, we didn't talk about that yesterday. Dry and humid gases makes a bit of a difference. Because if you're just measuring here, you always would choose humid gas or humid thing. It's all about the water pressure. So you've got a little bit, I think 18 millibar of water pressure in this room typically. The 8 millibar, of course, are missing from the rest of the gases. So there is a bit of a difference in between, which were never corrected with the old Fireboxes and Microxes, and now it is corrected. Also, the salinity. I'm pretty sure that you have institutes and universities that are dealing with marine kind of biologists, for instance, checking fishes, sea, sediment, soil, that kind of stuff. And of course, salinity makes also a difference. Typically, they love to have units in concentration. So typically, for instance, ppm, for them that means milligram per liters, or they would like to have micromole per liter or something like this. And salinity makes a difference because we just have a kind of salting out effect if you have salt in water. So that means if I just, let's say that is tap water, and then I have seawater. And that makes a difference because in seawater, not so much oxygen content is right in the liquid. We call it salting out because oxygen says, there's some salt, I don't like it that much, I just get to the air. Typically, you never have any problems with that because all those guys out there completely know their salinity.
So that means the meter measure the salinity?
No, they have to enter it. That is one of the things they have to enter it, and that's why I'm saying you have no problem, because typically if you go out there and he says, salinity, if he knows about the problem with oxygen, but basically every guy out there, every girl out there knows the salinity of the ocean or of the lake or whatever he's measuring it. It's like their first name, they just know it. Okay, next thing, because this is very common to us because of the Firebox 4. Just nearly the same, exactly the same light housing, 700 grams. Very simple user interface. We see it yesterday. So basically you just enter a person, a user. Basically you enter a sensor, you enter your measurement data, and then you get going. Very simple. Also chargeable via USB. Once again, USB means that the device only goes up to 90% of the charging capacity. That is due to the 5 volts and 500 milliampere that is coming with the PCs and the laptops, while the power supply is giving 1000 milliamperes, and then of course it gets up to 100% charge.
So the temperature drop constantly.
Also again, but we have that with the pricing. Fortunately, marketing did exactly the same. So the software to control and steer is outside. You have to buy it. The temperature probe is outside. It's exactly the same like the Firebox. The only thing that is a bit complicated is that what micro and mini sensors and why. That is the only thing. Okay. Application fields and examples, and now some very nice pictures are coming, of course. A bit the same like with the Firebox 4, but still, of course, you just can get out in the fields and really have some measurements outside. So what is done here is just measuring. It's not too good seen here, but it's a river, a little small river where you just can make the oxygen content in. And the other thing is just measuring an uptaken soil, including dirt and all that kind of stuff, also out of the river. Again, we've got the huge storage capacity. It's a built-in, not replaceable kind of SD card thing. It's not exactly the same. It's nearly an SD card with 4 gigabytes, which means as you just have to store 2 bytes like this, you just have nearly a million of data can be stored until you get it to the PC. Yeah. So what he is doing right now, but that is a kind of a bit weird. I had it once in my life. For instance, also measuring in dishes. Sometimes they measure also in dishes. Why do they do that? Sometimes they are not completely sure what about the gradient. In dishes typically you don't shake. So you've got a bit of issues. There are some cells that are just staying in solution, you know that? Or you've got adherent cells that are just falling down or something like this. So there could be a little bit of gradient. If that would be my well, so if the cells are going down, they are living down there and consuming lots of oxygen just right at the bottom, but not at the top. So sometimes, but this is a weird application, they just take microsensors to make a kind of profiling, going down and down and down and down, and then they've got a gradient. So they say, these are dead because I don't have enough oxygen on the top. I have to shake, or something like this. So it's a weird application, but they do it sometimes. Of course, once again, we saw that the introduction with the PreSens at a glance. You can use that kind of stuff, the Microx, also for the vial thing. So either, also this is still valid, like we talked yesterday, you can have like, that guy is measuring dissolved oxygen, but most of the time, or even as an additional information, they take the dissolved oxygen and they take the headspace. Just to be very sure that the vials are closed in the sense of no oxygen in it, so just to increase the stock time. An important information. Typically they've got filling machines for that kind of purpose, and sometimes they fail. Sometimes this is not a filling machine, this is a mixing up with oxygen machine. And then you just send out millions of vials of important medicine and they are dead. So that is just for controlling that kind of stuff. And once again, I don't know what it is. It's coffee. You've got coffee or tea bags, and you just measure. Yeah, you just measure also headspace in it. It's not as vital as with medicine, but still it could reduce your stock time heavily. So, typical application. Basically, I have to admit I would solve that kind of problem more with a VisiSense, but if they say no, I just need the 1D information of going down with the sensor and making a so-called set profile of a soil, you of course still can use now the new Microx 4. What is the use of that kind of experiments? Perhaps you had a customer or not. Of course in soil there are some living things in. And it's very important to have, for instance, fresh water, something like this, that those kind of things are living there. And those kind of things, bacteria and all that kind of stuff, small animals, are consuming oxygen and are cleaning soil somehow. So the less oxygen they've got, the more living things are in there, and the better it is for the soil and for the groundwater. So they're making set profiles, typically looking like this. You start at the top where there's lots of oxygen, and then you're going down and there is less oxygen because there are lots of living things in there. So what we always try to do with that kind of pictures is, you've got a customer, you just serve them with your kind of products, but you also always have to keep in mind, if he is dealing somehow with oxygen, pH or CO2, typically we've got a very good solution for him.